Caitlin Clark just left the WNBA, and only now is ESPN scrambling to recognize what they had. Throughout her rookie season, despite shattering attendance records and putting up historic numbers, she was buried beneath controversy, ignored by highlight reels, and reduced to side narratives. It wasn't until she signed with a European team that the media, including ESPN, began to acknowledge her star power.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
But by then, the damage was done. The league's main broadcast partner had missed its chance to build the sport's next icon. Clark's departure is more than a talent loss. It's a media failure with real consequences. Her time in Europe will likely be marked by appreciation, protection, and professional respect. Everything she didn't consistently receive in the WNBA. For a league trying to grow its brand, letting a star like Clark walk away should be a wake-up call that hype means nothing if you don't back it with substance. Now, the WNBA is left to clean up the mess without its most valuable player. Caitlin Clark's decision to sign with a European team didn't just send shockwaves through the WNBA. It forced the league into an emergency meeting to confront its biggest failure yet. The WNBA had one job: protect, promote, and prioritize its most valuable star. And it failed spectacularly. Clark didn't just bring hype, she brought historic numbers. Record-breaking attendance, off-the-charts jersey sales, primetime TV ratings. She gave the league a spotlight it hadn't seen in years, maybe ever. And yet, instead of being embraced as the face of the WNBA, she was left to fend for herself. Targeted on the court, overlooked by officials, and used by media as bait for outrage-fueled narratives. This wasn't an isolated case of miscommunication or growing pains. Clark's exit exposed a full-blown system failure. While she was racking up 29-point, 10-assist playoff games and bringing in sold-out crowds, the league allowed her to be physically abused night after night with no consequences. Elbows, shoves, flagrant fouls, most of it ignored. Her calls for better officiating, brushed off. Her frustration, public. Her treatment, unacceptable. And still, the WNBA stayed silent. When your most valuable player, your ticket seller, your ratings draw, your top story, is telling the world she feels unprotected, you don't sit on your hands. You act. You make sure refs know the line. You issue public statements supporting your stars. You don't let that silence become the story. But that's exactly what the league did. They ignored her, and now they've lost her. What's worse is that this wasn't just about how she was treated on the court. It was how she was treated off it. ESPN, the league's primary media partner, completely fumbled her coverage. They had front-row seats to the rise of a generational talent and gave it second-rate treatment. Weak commentary, low-priority coverage, and minimal promotion. When they did finally acknowledge Clark's impact, it was too late. The headlines were no longer about her performance. They were about her departure. This could have been a golden era, a breakout moment where the WNBA turned a star into a brand and used that brand to elevate the entire league. But instead, the league and ESPN let that moment rot on the vine. They didn't recognize the power they had until it walked out the door. And Clark didn't leave bitter. She left better. She left for a league that saw her value and wanted to protect it. A league that appreciates the star she is, not the controversy others try to make her into. In Europe, she's not being framed. She's being celebrated. While the WNBA was debating her fit and dissecting identity politics, European teams were offering her respect, safety, and recognition. And let's be clear, they're winning. The viewership, the sponsorships, the international buzz, it's already climbing because Caitlin Clark knows how to draw eyes. And this time, she's with people who know how to use that. She's going to thrive overseas. And it's not just about her. It's about what her departure says to every future star. The message is loud. Even if you're the most impactful rookie in years, even if you shatter records, even if you change the game, this league might still undervalue you. That's terrifying. Clark turned WNBA games into must-see events. She grew the fan base overnight. She brought in people who never watched a single women's basketball game before. She made the league relevant to an entirely new audience, and the league responded by pretending it was business as usual. No added security on the court. No PR strategy to combat the rising hate online. No meaningful public support from top league officials. And definitely no accountability for players who took things way too far physically. All while Clark kept producing, kept competing, and kept her head down. She showed up, the league didn't. And yet, some media figures still tried to paint her as the problem. Her success was framed as a threat. Her attention was resented, not respected. The racial narratives started swirling, with people like Alyssa Thomas and others creating controversy where there should have been celebration. It became less about her performance and more about who she was, and the league did nothing to defend her. Instead of shutting it down and keeping the focus on the game, they let the chaos fester. The narrative that Clark was being overhyped overshadowed the fact that she was producing, that she was earning every bit of attention with real, measurable impact, that she was making the league money. And still, the league chose to stay quiet. That silence was deafening. And ultimately, it was her final answer. So when the news hit that Clark had signed with a European team, the league scrambled. Emergency meetings. Internal damage control. Because they knew exactly what this meant. The WNBA wasn't just losing a player, it was losing the future. Clark could have been the league's foundation for the next decade. A centerpiece to build around. A reason for young athletes to dream about joining the WNBA. A name you could market globally. But instead of being protected, she was politicized, targeted, and left without the backing she earned. And now the WNBA is left trying to pick up the pieces. They're facing a storm of fan outrage, declining interest, a media firestorm, and a growing realization that their mismanagement might have cost them more than they're ready to admit. The league says it values growth and opportunity, that it wants to promote women's sports. But what message does it send when you lose your biggest draw because you couldn't keep her safe? Because you couldn't control the officiating? Because you couldn't stop your own media partners from tearing her down? It sends a message that this league doesn't know how to handle stars, that it's not ready for what real success looks like. And fans are watching. Other players are watching. Sponsors are definitely watching. The WNBA needs to face the hard truth. This isn't about Caitlin Clark's ego, her fame, or a narrative. This is about a league that was handed the blueprint for success and chose to ignore it. The consequences are already here. This isn't a warning shot. This is a reality check. And unless major changes are made, starting with how the league protects and promotes its top players, this won't be the last star to walk away. Caitlin Clark's move to Europe is a loss the league can't spin away. It's too visible, too obvious, and too damaging to the WNBA's credibility as a home for elite talent. It should never have come to this. So now the league has to ask itself the hardest question of all. When your brightest star tells the world you didn't protect her, how do you expect anyone else to trust that you will protect them? If you're still here, hit the like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Caitlin Clark failed by the league? Can the WNBA fix this mess? And subscribe, because this story isn't going anywhere. This was more than a missed opportunity. It was a full-blown meltdown, and the clock is ticking on whether the WNBA can recover from it. The fallout from Caitlin Clark's decision to walk away from the WNBA is still unfolding, and it's exposing layer after layer of failure. The league's emergency meeting wasn't about strategy. It was about damage control. Because deep down, everyone at the top knows what this really means. The WNBA didn't just lose a star. It lost its credibility. This isn't a player opting for a different style of play. This isn't someone going overseas for a bigger contract in the offseason. This is the league's most marketable talent choosing to leave during the exact moment she was supposed to be the centerpiece of their growth. That kind of move doesn't just happen, it's caused. And the WNBA caused it. They had every reason to protect her. Caitlin Clark was driving unprecedented attendance. Jerseys flying off shelves. Her name constantly trending. TV ratings boosted by her presence alone. She didn't just play well, she made people care. She brought in new fans who didn't grow up watching women's basketball. People tuned in for her. The league had a gift in their hands, and they didn't know what to do with it. Instead of nurturing her rise, They allowed it to become controversial. They let her success be twisted into a cultural battle. Instead of shielding her, they watched as she got hit, literally and figuratively, from every angle. When opposing players elbowed her, shoved her, targeted her, it became a trend. Game after game, fouls weren't called. Officials looked the other way. Even Clark herself spoke out, saying she felt hammered on the court. But there was no accountability, no fines, no suspensions, no league memo about respect for players. Nothing. The silence was louder than any official statement could have been. And that silence spoke volumes. It told players around the league that there were no rules when it came to targeting her. It told fans that the league wasn't willing to step in and take control. And it told Clark, clearly, that she was on her own. So she left. Now the WNBA is scrambling to figure out how to fill the vacuum she's left behind. But you can't replace Caitlin Clark with a new ad campaign or a committee of talking points. She wasn't just a face. She was the moment. And now the moment's gone. The media circus hasn't helped either. ESPN had the chance to be her biggest advocate. They had the platform, the power, the influence, and they blew it. Early on, Clark's rise was treated like a sideshow, buried beneath NBA headlines, casually mentioned in panels, her impact consistently downplayed. They had the perfect opportunity to craft a compelling, star-driven narrative. And instead, they let other voices define her. The coverage skewed toward controversy, toward drama, toward false debates that tried to reduce her accomplishments to identity politics. Her game was constantly being picked apart, not by analysts breaking down her play, but by commentators obsessed with everything but basketball. And when she responded by doing what she's always done, showing up and performing, they ignored that too. Only after she announced her exit did the networks rush to highlight her greatness. Suddenly, she was a pioneer. Suddenly, her numbers mattered. Suddenly, her impact was undeniable. But the applause came after the door had already slammed shut. Now, they're left chasing a story they had every opportunity to own. Meanwhile, Clark's move to Europe isn't just a personal career decision. It's a signal to the entire basketball world. It says, I know my worth, and I won't stay somewhere that doesn't. And the European leagues? They welcomed her with open arms. They know exactly what she brings. They know how to market stars, how to build around them, how to create systems that protect them. Clark's already being promoted, protected, and prioritized in ways she never was in the WNBA. She's not dealing with media drama. She's not dodging elbows. She's not being used as a lightning rod for culture war talking points. She's just playing basketball and being celebrated for it. That's the piece the WNBA never seemed to grasp. Clark wasn't asking for special treatment. She was asking for basic respect, safe playing conditions, fair officiating, strategic marketing, and support from a league that claimed to want to grow. Instead, they watched her get battered and mocked and said nothing. And let's be honest, the damage goes far beyond just Caitlin Clark. Her departure is a signal flare for every young player watching, every college athlete weighing their options, every agent looking out for their client. They're seeing the message loud and clear. Even if you're the most hyped rookie in years, even if you boost ratings, break records, and draw fans, you still might not get the protection you deserve in this league. That's not just bad optics. That's a brand crisis. The WNBA has worked for years to build itself up as a league of opportunity, a platform for talent, a home for elite athletes. But when your top star leaves because she didn't feel safe or supported, that image starts to collapse. And it won't just be Clark. If this culture continues, if the league keeps prioritizing narratives over performance, silence over accountability, and politics over player welfare, more players will walk. Europe isn't a fallback anymore. It's a viable alternative. It's structured. It's funded. It's respectful of its stars. And now, it's got Caitlin Clark and all the attention she brings with her. And back in the U.S., the WNBA is stuck trying to explain how they let this happen. Emergency meetings can't rewrite history. They can't erase the games where Clark got thrown to the floor without a call. They can't silence the media figures who weaponized her image. And they can't hide the fact that they had every chance to lock in a decade of growth, and let it slip away. What they can do is change. They can overhaul officiating. They can issue stronger policies on player protection. They can rebuild trust with fans by taking ownership of their mistakes. And they can finally start putting the game first, before narratives, before politics, before everything else that has nothing to do with performance. Because this isn't just about losing a player. It's about losing what that player meant. Caitlin Clark was more than a stat line. She was the reason people showed up. She was the future the league kept saying it wanted. And when they got it, they didn't know what to do. And now the question isn't how they win her back. It's whether they can convince anyone else to believe in the system she left behind. The next Caitlin Clark is definitely watching. Somewhere in a college gym or a high school tournament, there's another generational talent grinding her way toward the pros. And now, thanks to everything that's unfolded, she's not just dreaming of the WNBA, she's weighing it. She's watching how the league treated the most impactful rookie in years. She's watching how fans were drawn in, how merchandise flew off shelves, how TV numbers climbed, only to see the league hesitate, flinch, and ultimately let the momentum walk out the door. Because Caitlin Clark didn't just leave for a bigger paycheck. She didn't leave because she couldn't cut it. She left because the WNBA, with all its promise, proved it wasn't ready to protect, prioritize, or promote the one player who could have changed its trajectory. That's what makes this more than a one-off controversy. This isn't just a PR misstep. It's structural. It's cultural. It's the kind of deep-rooted dysfunction that gets exposed when pressure meets power. And when the pressure came, when Caitlin Clark lit the league on fire, the WNBA leadership didn't step up. They shrank. The league had a chance to set a new tone. One that said, we stand by our stars. We build around talent. We call the game fair. We don't let cultural noise dictate the value of our players. Instead, they stood still, and that inaction spoke louder than any press release ever could. They let the media turn Clark's rise into a lightning rod for race baiting and division. They let opposing players treat her like a punching bag without intervention. They let the discourse get hijacked by commentators more interested in scoring political points than recognizing athletic excellence. All while Clark kept showing up, kept performing, kept taking elbows and shoves and trash talk and thinly veiled resentment, and still found a way to lead, to compete, to win. She didn't ask for special treatment. She asked for the basics, call the fouls, promote the games, focus on basketball. That shouldn't have been too much, but apparently it was. And now the league has to live with the fallout, not just losing the player, but the ripple effects that come with her absence. Because Clark didn't just boost ticket sales, she was the ticket. Entire road trips were built around her presence. Families drove hours just to catch one glimpse of her game. For many, she was their first reason to ever care about a WNBA team. Now that she's gone, what's left? The WNBA is suddenly facing a cold truth. Star power isn't just about numbers. It's about momentum. And when you lose the player with the momentum, everything slows down. The media attention dips. The sponsorship energy fades. The casual fans stop tuning in. And the league goes right back to fighting for relevance. They had a window, a real one, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to turn a singular talent into a foundational piece for the next decade. And instead of opening that window wide, they cracked it just enough to say they tried, and then slammed it shut. It's not just the fans who noticed. Players around the league noticed too. And not just veterans or stars, but young talent. Rookies, college players with WNBA dreams. They're seeing that performance doesn't guarantee support. That being a top draw doesn't mean you'll be protected. That the league's politics and priorities might leave you out to dry, even when you're the one holding the whole thing together. That's the scary part. Because the WNBA has worked so hard to position itself as a league that empowers women, supports diversity, and fosters the next generation of greats. But when the lights were brightest, they let their biggest opportunity burn out. Not because she failed, but because they did. Clark's departure is now a case study in what not to do. Other leagues are paying attention. Other countries, other investors. They're seeing the league fumble an obvious asset and realizing there's a gap in the market. If the WNBA won't properly support its stars, someone else will. And that's exactly what happened. Europe stepped up. They offered Clark not just a team, but a system that values her, that markets her, that protects her on the court, that promotes her off of it. They're not trying to debate her worth, they're showcasing it. And that contrast is brutal for the WNBA, because you can't tell people you're serious about growing the game while letting your top draw take unnecessary hits, face targeted coverage, and get politically dissected for doing her job. You can't build a business around empowering women while quietly failing to empower the one woman who brought you the most power you've had in years. This should have been a turning point, a moment where the league evolved, where officiating improved, where marketing stepped up, where media coverage stopped chasing hot takes and started celebrating excellence. But instead, the league hesitated. They didn't clamp down on flagrant fouls. They didn't course-correct the media narratives. They didn't use Clark's success as a rising tide to lift everyone else. They let resentment build. They let division fester. They let a golden moment slip away. Now they're left with meetings and memos. But none of that brings her back. Clark is gone, and what she takes with her is bigger than any stat sheet. It's belief. Belief that the league was finally turning a corner, that it was ready to compete with the big boys, that it knew how to capitalize on viral moments and superstar power, that it could rise above the noise and actually build a product that values performance over politics. But that belief is fractured now, and rebuilding it, that's going to take more than statements or spin. It's going to take real change, structural change, cultural change. The WNBA needs to fix its officiating standards. It needs to re-examine how it markets players. It needs to stop chasing manufactured narratives and start telling the stories fans actually care about, the ones rooted in talent, hard work, and real competitive greatness. It needs to act like a serious league, because right now, it's looking like a league that just let the biggest opportunity in its history walk away without a fight. Caitlin Clark gave them everything: star power, ticket sales, TV ratings, cultural buzz, and all she asked for was fairness, protection, recognition, the bare minimum. And still, they failed her. Now she's across the Atlantic, doing what she's always done, playing basketball at the highest level. Only this time, she's doing it in a league that understands what it has, that's giving her the space, the respect, and the support to shine. Meanwhile, the WNBA is left holding empty seats, declining interest, and a giant what could have been. This isn't about whether she'll come back someday. It's about what she exposed before she left. If you've been following this from the start, hit that like button. Tell me what you think in the comments. Was this a self-inflicted loss? Can the league recover from this? Or is the damage already done? And make sure to subscribe, because this isn't the end. Caitlin Clark may be gone, but the aftershocks of her departure are just getting started.